wonderful to be here this evening, especially as cold as it is. But the cold don't bother me as much as the cold and wet. That's when it gets to where it's just like, you know what, that's enough of this. I like the cold. I enjoy the cold. I don't even mind the cold when there's snow on the ground. I just don't like the cold and wet. It's just miserable. It's yucky. Makes you feel terrible. Of course, I don't like it when it's hot and wet, even worse. So I just don't like being wet. Psalm 3. The third psalm in our study of going through the Psalms. I was doing some research and study into the background of this psalm, at least a little bit, not extensively like I would like to do and hope to be able to do in the future. But if you'll notice, is there a little superscription above this psalm before verse 1 in your Bible? And what does that say?
Psalm of David when he fled from Absalom his son.
A psalm of David when he fled from Absalom his son. I bring this up and begin this way because there's a number of individuals who understand that these superscriptions are not inspired. Sometimes I wonder where that comes from. That's why I say I want to do more research and study into them, because this superscription exists within the Septuagint version, the oldest Greek version, the Greek translated from the originals, the LXX. So it's in the oldest version, so where did it come from? When did it begin? How far back into the existence of the Psalms was it when this superscription was applied to this specific psalm? Could it have been applied to the psalm when it was written yet not be inspired? Yeah, it could. There's no doubt about that. So I don't want to get into any kind of argument or anything like that as to whether or not these superscriptions are an inspired part of the psalm. Because without the superscriptions, is the psalm still important? Yeah. Does it still help us? Yeah. So what we're going to do with these psalms, with these superscriptions as this that are assigned to a specific time, we're going to look at it from that time period as best we can. Such as Psalm 51 being ascribed to David's penitence after the sin with Bathsheba. Understanding these different things, we'll look at those, and what we're going to do is look at this psalm tonight through the eyes of a king who is fleeing from his son. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. With the tenet of Psalm 3, does it describe a situation like that? Yes. Is Absalom, fleeing from Absalom, the only time that David in his life experienced that? No. David had a number of times in his life that he experienced this situation, didn't he? You know, he had those times that he fled from other individuals. He fled from the Philistines. Matter of fact, he fled from Saul, trying to stay alive and fleeing from Saul. So whether the superscription is accurate on that account or not, we're not really going to be concerned with that portion of it. But since it does fit a specific situation as far as the approach, the attitude, the mentality, we're going to look at it from that. So understanding that, that's the direction we're going to take. Now, this is a psalm of trust. Now, just so you know, we're going to go back to 2 Samuel chapter 15 in just a moment and look at when these things occurred. But understand, this psalm is a psalm of trust. Now, the psalms were hymns as much as they were prayers. This is a psalm that is generally understood to have been a morning prayer. In other words, a psalm that was sung or uttered as a prayer in the morning, in conjunction with Psalm 4, which is understood to be a prayer in the evening. And I'm looking forward to getting to Psalm 4. Have you ever read the 4th Psalm? Hear me when I call, O God, my righteousness. Now think about that. You know what? I got to get off of that or I'm going to start preaching about Psalm 4 and forget about chapter 3. So thinking about the 3rd Psalm, as we enter into this study, keep in mind with this being a prayer in the morning, how would it affect my day to start each day uttering the words to the psalm? As we go through these portions, now it's broken up into 4 different sections. And some of your Bibles may have the natural divisions in them. Some of them may not, just depending on how the translators and the printers printed that particular edition. But you'll also notice that 3 times within this psalm is the Selah. S-E-L-A-H. That Selah was a musical notation that is generally believed to have been a pause. You know how some of our songs we'll sing, we'll get to the end of a verse right before you enter into the chorus, or maybe it is even that you're going into the chorus, and when you hit the end of the chorus before you come back and begin the next verse, that you've got this drawn out word. It'd be the same aspect. What's the purpose? Does it mean does the word have to be drawn? No. The purpose is, here's the thought. Now pause and think about it. Let the thought sink in. Let the meaning of the words you have just uttered sink into your own mind, heart, and emotions. See what it does to help you. Remember we said when we began this, that the Psalms have the greatest amount of help and comfort and strength, as much or more than any of the rest of the books. Because when you're going through struggles, you're going through trials, you're going through all these different things in life, the Psalms give us a way out and help us find a way to deal with those things. So what we're going to see in this psalm, and we're going to turn back to 2 Samuel 15 and look at it before we come back and start into the psalm, the psalm itself. If you wanted to break this psalm down into an outline, and the simple outline will show us why, this would be a perfectly worded prayer for us even today. If you break this down in an outline fashion, the first 2 verses deal with anxiety. The second 2 deal with the confidence in God. The next 2 deal with a surprise at his ability to sleep. Somebody might be thinking, well, that's not such a big deal. You ever had stress keep you up all night? You ever had worry over a situation? Keep you up all night, maybe nights at a time? Get you to the point where you can't even eat? Start losing weight because you're so worried about about this specific situation. Guess what? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But yet, even in this period of anxiety, the author, David Being, said, I slept. The final conclusion of this, the last 2 verses, are a call upon God for salvation. Now, with those 4 points in mind, what else could be, what better way could you think of to start your day? Here I am, I've got to face the world today. I'm anxious and worried about it. I don't know what's out there waiting for me. But I trust God's got it in His hand. He's got it handled. I'm not going to worry about it. Because I know He's got it handled, I can let the stress go and I can relax. And my salvation will be in Him. Now let's go back to 2 Samuel 15. Now, in 2 Samuel 15, I initially wanted to read through this entire chapter, but I don't know that we would have time to do that tonight and discuss the psalm as well. So I think what I'm going to do is try to summarize this chapter a little bit. If you want to read through it while we're going through this summary, you can probably read it quicker than what I could read it out loud with us. But if you want to read through this while we summarize, feel free. Absalom's trying to start a coup. Absalom is standing in the gate of the city of Jerusalem, and standing in the gate was a position of authority. This is the place where the decisions were made. When a brother would have aught with another brother, they would bring it to the gate, and those who were sitting in the gate would decide who was right and who was wrong. So Absalom is here standing in the gate. And when the people come to the king to bring their problems to the king, Absalom will stop them. He'd say, what city are you from? And when they'd tell him, he'd say, I love the way this is worded. I'm from such and such a city. Now, as I was looking through different commentaries trying to find out exactly what that meant, I didn't find a whole lot. So I've got to add what I'm thinking that potentially means. When Absalom was saying, I'm from such and such a city, it seems to me, understand this is my surmising on this little tidbit, it seems to me that Absalom is saying, I'm from the same city. What city are you from? I'm from such and such a city. And he says, now I'm also from this tribe. So he's gaining that ground of favor and trust within these individuals. Now, as he does this, he says, oh, if I were one making decisions, then whatever your problem would be taken care of. Later on, it says Absalom gained about 50 different chariots together. I have to wonder, now, matter of fact, here's where this comes down to my wonder. Look at verse 7 of chapter 15. It says, it came to pass, excuse me. Actually, let's back up to verse 6 so we can put these two pieces together. In this manner, Absalom acted toward all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Now, let's see why I wanted to go back to verse 6. Verse 7. Now it came to pass after 40 years. Now there's a lot of debate as to whether or not that 40 is 40 or 4, whether it was a mistranslation. It only makes sense for it to have been 4. Because if it had been 40, then this would have stretched all the way back to the time that David was the king in Hebron. But yet Absalom is in the gate of Jerusalem while the king is there. So 40 doesn't fit. It's obvious that was a mistranslation. There's a number of translations that have 4 instead of 40. And that would be why. So nonetheless, this has been going on for 4 years at the very least. You mean to tell me the king didn't know about this? The king of Ishmael, he didn't know this was going on? You mean to tell me he didn't know that his son was down there in the gate stealing the hearts of the people? Oh, I think he knew. Doesn't make sense that he wouldn't know. He had too many people who were faithful to him to know and hear what was going on. Look, when stuff like that's going on, is it quiet? Everybody wants to know who the popular guy is, and Absalom's becoming the popular guy. And as he becomes the popular guy, verse 9 said he arose and went to Hebron. He sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel. He said, as soon as you hear the trumpet, you shall say, Absalom reigns in Hebron. And he went with 200 men invited from Jerusalem. And here's the thing, those folks from Jerusalem, they went along not knowing what was going on. And then Absalom sent for Ahithophel, David's counselor, from his city. And the conspiracy grew strong, for Absalom continually increased in number. Now, I want you to keep these things in mind. In chapter 17, in chapter 17, Ahithophel tried to get permission from Absalom to take 12,000 men and go against David while he was weary in the wilderness. Absalom didn't listen to that counsel. He listened to the counsel that got him in trouble. But it was the counsel of David. Because notice, Hushai said, I find it so interesting, this counselor of Absalom. I find it so interesting that Ahithophel, he got so upset when they didn't listen to his counsel that he went and set his house in order and hung himself. Now, that just tells me the kind of person you were dealing with. Now, this is the time period in which David is in the wilderness. The people are with him. And when it comes time to fight against them in chapter 17, he even tells them, now look, remember, David got in trouble when he didn't go out to war once before, didn't he? He told the people this time, he said, I'm going to go with you. The people said, no. They said, you're worth 10,000 of us. You stay here. He said, I'll do it as you see is right. He stayed there. Absalom's forces and David's forces met, and they were scattered throughout the battleground. And then they started fleeing into the wilderness, and it said the wilderness devoured more than the sword, including Absalom, when he got that long, pretty hair of his hung up in a terebinth tree. One of the servants came to Joab and said, I saw Absalom hanging from a tree. He's hanging in a tree. You remember what David told Joab when they went out to battle? Do not hurt the boy. Do not hurt the boy. He still saw Absalom as his little boy. And here he is hanging in that tree. And what does Joab do? Kills him, slaughters him hanging in that tree. You remember David's reply when he found out the boy Absalom, the young man Absalom, was dead? He was heartbroken. Heartbroken. Absalom. He's heartbroken, torn apart. But yet, here's this song. If the superscription is correct, written during that time period, while David and his faithful are following him around in the wilderness. And look at his anxiety. Lord, how they have increased who trouble me. You remember what chapter 15 told us about Absalom and his forces? He stole the hearts of the people, and his number increased continually. He said, many are they who rise up against me. Many are they who say of me, there's no help for him in God. That's perfect timing, wasn't it? So here is David, fearing for his life, fearing for the lives of those faithful who are following with him. And he's worried. He's worried sick. If you could get a grip on the emotion tied up in this, folks, he is worried to death. But then he gets to the second verse of the hymn. But you, O Lord, are a shield to me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. The way this is written, it's almost written from a standpoint of potential shame that he was worried in the first place. But you, O Lord, you're the shield for me. You are my protector. You are the one that surrounds me. You protect me. The word that is translated shield here means what? A protection from all sides, from all around. You protect me from above, from below, and from side to side, and in every direction you are my protection. Why am I worried? You know, I know there's a number of you that know Steph and I have purchased a publication business. And I got to tell you, there's times when I am worried sick about whether or not things are going to work out right. Then I have to be like David. But you, Lord, are my shield. You are my protector, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. I cried to the Lord with my voice, and he heard from his holy hill. So the psalmist understands this moment of anxiety and worry and concern that I had. I need to put that in God's hands. I need to have my trust in him. If I trust in him, to provide, then I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. All I've got to know, it may not be easy. Okay? I've got to understand it may not be easy. Do you think, if this superscription is accurate, do you think it was easy for David while he was in the wilderness, knowing his own flesh and blood sought his life? You think it was easy? Absolutely not. But here's the confirmation. You, O Lord, are my shield. I trust in you. Because I trust in you, it doesn't matter. Now look, the first portion of this psalm and the third portion of this psalm. Look how they fit together. I was so anxious and so worried that I was outside of myself. Beside myself, we would say. But yet I was able to lay down and sleep. Notice what he says. I lay down and slept. And then I awoke. You want to know why? Because the Lord sustained me. Brethren, what better means would there be to start your day than with the knowledge and the confirmation that the Lord has sustained you through the night and that He will sustain you through the day. You may not have everything you want. What you have to put up with may not make things easy, but the sustenance is still available. The Lord sustained me. Because He has sustained me, I won't be afraid though there's 10,000. Remember how many Ahithophel wanted to take to go against him? Absalom, give me 12,000 men. You know, I find it interesting. Give me 12,000 men to go after him while he's tired. Boy, he was a brave sort, wasn't he? 12,000 men to go after a man while he's worn out. Since I awoke and the Lord sustained me, I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. How does that apply to my daily life? It doesn't matter what I face. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad things are at the job that day. Ken, it don't matter how mean them kids on the school bus are to you. It don't matter. It don't matter. Ricky, it don't matter if you bust your knuckles on the engine. It don't make any difference. How many people may write you a check and it bounced that day? You know what? It don't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. Why? Because the Lord sustained me. I trust in God. I have confidence in Him. He sustained me and will continue to sustain me. Well, I don't know about y'all, but that hurt my ear.
Sure did.
Give me just a minute, let my ear quit ringing. Ooh, I don't see how somebody sat in that car.
Surely they can't hear.
I can't now. Finally, using this psalm to take us through the day, notice the concluding factor. I was anxious, but I figured out I got to trust in God. My trust in God removed all of that anxiety, worry, and stress. With all of that removed, I have salvation in God. Remember, he said, I slept because why? The Lord sustained me. How will He continually sustain me? Arise, O Lord, save me, O God. For you have struck my enemies on the cheekbone. You have broken the teeth of the ungodly. Now, the striking on the cheekbone and breaking the teeth, these were Hebrew idioms. And they were idioms referring to a ravenous animal, wild animal. And the sharp, jagged teeth and the powerful jaws by which he would be able to take his prey down. If you break that animal's teeth out and fracture his cheek and jawbones, what's he going to be able to attack? You see, those people that were threatening him, that's how he's seeing them. He's seeing them as this ravenous animal, this beast coming trying to slaughter him. But God's going to take that ravenous beast, He's going to break the teeth out. He's going to take their jaws and snap them in their face. And what kind of a danger are they then? No, I find it interesting. A pack of wolves has a lot of destructive power. But I don't care how many was in that pack. You take their teeth out, they can't do diddly. They're done. Because that's their weapons. That's their means of murder and slaughter. But yet these, when the author called upon God for salvation, he goes right for the heart. God, you have the ability to stop this. I trust in you, and because I trust in you, I'm not going to worry about it. It's in your hands. And with it being in your hands, salvation belongs to the Lord. Let your blessing be upon your people. Brethren, what better way could we have to start a day? I would challenge you, try for the next 30 days. Every morning when you open up your eyes, read Psalm 3. And don't just read it, utter it aloud. Read it until you understand, until you got a grasp on the psalm, and then keep reading until the psalm has a grasp on you. And see if it doesn't help whatever situation you come across be that much better. I got to tell you, for me personally, and I hate doing this, but the only examples I have are the ones that I know. I know y'all may not believe this, but I didn't used to be a very nice person. I didn't used to be a very nice person at all. Because my trust was in the wrong place. When my trust was given to the one who sustains all, I wasn't worried about those things anymore. It doesn't matter what we face. Steph mentioned not too long ago, she said, "You don't yell at anybody anymore." Told you I wasn't very nice. I said, I know. I noticed that too. I kind of like that. It's fun not having a sore throat every day. But it's also much nicer when I see the look in my children's eyes looking back at me when we converse about issues that they have to face. It's also much nicer when I see the look in her eyes when we deal with those issues on a day-to-day basis. Why? Because you have to put your trust in the one who sustains you. Salvation belongs to the Lord. And may every day of our lives be begun, continued, and concluded with the blessing of the Lord in our lives. If there's anybody here tonight